It's Saturday morning at 10 a.m., so you know what that means. It's time for What's Up, Ocala? With tens of thousands of viewers every month on our YouTube channel and millions so far on TikTok, we are joined by our host, local owner, and broker of Great Expectations Realty, Andrea Appraiser.
Good morning and welcome to What's Up, Ocala. I'm your host, Andrea Appraiser, and I have my good friend Jimmy with me. And Jimmy, why don't you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
I'm Jimmy Cowan. I am the Marion County Property Appraiser. I'm now in my second term, and I'm going on almost 34 years at the Property Appraiser's office, but in my second term as Property Appraiser. But I am your elected official, the Marion County Property Appraiser, one of the constitutional officers.
That whole thing with we're going to get rid of property taxes in Florida, which I was trying to sit, that math ain't mathin'. Like how you would have to raise the sales tax to a ridiculous amount in order to even break even. So I just couldn't figure out how they were planning on doing that.
I don't know that it's died down.
Really?
No. Governor DeSantis wants to get rid of it. There's some talk. As far as our office, we haven't. It doesn't matter either way.
Really?
I mean, if taxes were to go down or they were to get rid of taxes, we would still have a job. We still have to map the county. We still have to keep track of the ownership. We still have to keep track of values, damage assessment, things of that nature. So, just recently we had almost 49,000 transfers of properties that we were taking care of in the back. And, of course, we mapped the county. It would cause a whole lot less phone calls to our office, maybe get rid of VAB, value adjustment boards.
Get yelled at a lot less.
Yeah, I mean, and it's going to be.
What do you mean my house is worth more because I added a bathroom? What? Yeah.
Well, trim notices go out the 21st. So truth and millage, and lets everybody know what to expect. Non-av alarms have gone up to about $212 per residential house between fire and waste.
It doesn't sound that bad, but when you see the whole thing, you're like, oh my goodness. Yeah,
so
it feels bad.
I mean, we actually had an office meeting yesterday, and I informed my people, do not get into a political discussion about getting rid of property taxes because it's not up to us. We don't vote. Yeah. We don't do that. Yeah. Our sole purpose, besides exemptions, things of that nature, is to value property based on the previous year's market data. So that'd be sales or income approach, the income to a building, not to a business, to a building, rental income. You do have cost approach, which is used basically on the first year. So there's three approaches to value: the cost, sales comparison, and income approach. Right. So there's a lot of talk about getting rid of property taxes. Right now, I have not seen a clear and concise plan that they've put into effect.
That was I was like, okay, property taxes brings in a lot of money.
Well, it's about 40% in Marion County. The rest of it comes from fees. So, if you're talking on a fee-based case, basically you would have to increase some of the other fees like sales tax, whether they're talking about sales tax. Right. One of the things that was supposedly floated around, and then Ryan Chamberlain's the one from Marion County that said it, is adding 2% to each sale. Which there's some holes in that. There's some problems with that. So,
explain it to me because I'm
example. You buy something in a Stone Creek or an Oak Run that you buy the land building and improvement package. You would dock stamp say $400,000. Okay. You look at a house like what I did is I bought my lot and contracted a builder, and it went through a mortgage. Right. Construction loan and a mortgage. That's not recorded as a sale. So if we're going 2% on a sale of a vacant lot, say $40,000, that's $800, and somebody that's $400,000 is going to be paying $8,000 extra dollars based on what they're talking about. Some laws would have to change there.
Well, we have impact fees now again.
Yeah, and I'm not a guru on that. That's the county, so they're the ones that charge that.
We're not doing that.
Yeah. So,
but I mean, they could for those new, because it's new construction that gets the impact fees because those new houses means new residents, means more kids going to school or using the road, more people using the roads, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, for a new construction, I guess it could be built into the impact fees. But again, I am so not the person. I have no idea. I'm so out of my realm.
But how much could you charge for multiple years down the road? That would be the problem. I mean, most people would be at this point, adding anything to a sell price, and sell prices are so high.
Right.
My thing is that I think would happen, and it's just my opinion, if in fact we did not have real estate taxes here, investors from all over would come to Florida and drive prices up even higher.
Yeah.
Because they would have no obligation to pay taxes.
Right.
So they're willing to pay probably more, which it's already, at a point right now, adding anything to a sell price, there's already people that are out of the market because values are so high, and we don't set the values. We look at what happens in the real estate market the year before, and interpret what happens in that market.
But those people that are priced out of the market, I mean, a lot of that pricing involves the property taxes that they have to pay a portion of each month that's built into all of it. So, I mean, somebody that can afford a house, they also have to figure out HOA, insurance, and property taxes. And that's all kind of, can you actually afford the house? Yes. Can you afford the house with those other things? No. So, I mean, I'm hoping it breaks even. I don't know. I hope there's a lot smarter people than me figuring it out.
If you know Florida law about, we'll say, a residential house, we're not even talking commercial. Mm-hmm. If you file for homestead, or you've been living here for quite a while, you are pretty much protected, no more than 3% increase, and you can take any portability with you to a new property anywhere in the state of Florida. So people that have homestead for many, many years, they're not seeing large increases. People that I buy a piece of property from you and you've been living there for quite a number of years, you have got a huge Save Our Homes holdback sitting there. If I buy, say, in March or April of that year from you, I get the benefit of your exemptions for that first year. The next year I go and I file homestead. If I'm a first-time home buyer, out-of-state home buyer, or haven't had homestead in the last 3 years, my homestead amount, your homestead amount basically cancel out. But that big holdback that you had comes off, and my market and assess become the same number. So it's a reset. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times what's happening is they're basing what the taxes are from the previous owner when actuality they need to be looking ahead to the next year and figuring out what it is. Right. Now, we tried some legislation. I belong to Florida Association of Property Appraisers and Property Appraisers Association of Florida, both. We're currently trying to get them to combined under one. That would
be helpful. Yeah.
And we tried to get Zillow, MLS, every landing out there that has to deal with real estate to have a tax estimator on there. And it never went through. Helpful. It would be helpful to a lot of people because the problem that we have, not just in Marion County, but in all 67 counties, is people coming in, just like you said, after the fact and saying, look, I was told by my real estate agent.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
It wasn't you. But I was told by my real estate agent that the taxes were $2,000. The reset comes around and they're $5,000 or $6,000, which then jumps their payment up. And then you talked about insurance. There's no cap at all on insurance. There is a cap on homestead.
Right.
Commercial properties, there's a 10% cap. So after you first own it the first year, it can't go up any more than 10%. The difference in that capping or that holdback on that property is you still pay school taxes.
Right.
So there was another thing that passed this year that will give a little bit of relief. It's not much. Was the cost of living from Amendment 5 on the second homestead. So instead of it being the first homestead is worth $25,000, the second homestead is worth another $25,000. So that number is now $25,722 because they added a cost of living to it. Now $722 is not going to save you a whole lot of money.
No, but it makes it a little bit more palatable for those that are maybe on a fixed income or a very strict budget. $722.
Right, and with that
every little bit helps.
Second amount of homestead, it can never go down. It can only go up. Right. So in a down year, if the cost of living was less than 1%, which I haven't seen ever, if it was at that point, it could not decrease. Right. So next year, the multiplier will be $25,722 times whatever the cost of living is, and bring that back up a little bit more.
Oh, the numbers. I there's a lot of things that I can do in my life, and there's, I truly believe, you can be anything you want to be. I cannot do your job. I cannot.
It's constantly changing.
Your job.
This is my 33rd going on 34th year, and I've seen change almost every year.
I honestly, just trying to figure out the basics of it. That's all I can really do. But I try, very, very hard to explain some of the concepts, such as, that I understand at least. Other than that, I have to send them to your office because I just, I don't math that hard. But one of the things is if somebody's buying new construction and they see, oh, the taxes are only $300 a year. That's not staying there.
Yeah, that would be on vacant land.
For vacant land, and they have not appraised with the house yet. It's too new to do that. You are not going to have a property tax of $300 a year. It's not happening. So that is one of the things I try to warn people of, you know what, try and find an equal house on the same street that was built 6 months before or something like that, and check and see what their taxes are, and that should give you a better idea. That's the best I can do, or call property appraiser, because I don't know.
Well, the problem with that, I mean, we can, if it's a builder and there's a model and there's one already built, that would help us try to find the value of that property.
Right.
Problem with saying what's the taxes is it makes it hard because some people do have portability to bring with them. Some people do not.
That's true.
So you and I could build the same model, and you could have had homestead before, and your taxes could be way lower than mine. So there's a lot of irons in the fire.
That was a clever way, but okay. All right. At least a basic. So just tell them to call your office. There's no way out. I'm sorry,
believe it or not,
I'm trying to save
them
you some
type
phone
of calls
calls
we do want to take, because the last thing that we want, let's face it, when you're buying a home, that's probably your biggest investment that you'll make in your lifetime.
Right. It is.
And so when somebody gets in and they get approved for X amount of dollars or pre-approved, they know at that point that's in their budget. They can basically afford that. The problem is that shock and awe when the reset comes from Save Our Homes. Right. Going back talking about taxes, we don't figure the taxes, we figure the value. So we're part of it. We're the beginning portion, the value that gets multiplied by a tax rate, and then there's non-ad valorem that get added into that also. Basically, anytime there's an exemption or anytime the state adds more exemptions, sometimes it just shifts the burden to somebody else. If in fact they do something more, a lot of talk was, let's give some relief to homestead owners. If that's the case, then the non-homestead owners and the businesses are going to have to pick up the bill. Yeah. So, a good way to put it, in a class I took years ago, there was a guy, he says, everybody in this class right here, let's say we want to take a bus trip. And if we know that bus is going to cost X amount of dollars and there's 50 people, and so we divide that 50 by the amount of what the bus would cost, and the day that we leave to go on that trip, out of the 50 people, only 40 show up. We still got to pay for the bus.
Right.
So everybody has to ante up a little bit more out of their pocket to pay for that seat.
Analogy right there. That is very interesting.
So basically, the money does have to come from somewhere.
Right.
I haven't seen anything in the legislature yet that has told us exactly where it's going to come from. They're looking at ideas all over the place.
They're still trying to push for this.
Basically doing feasibility studies, but I will be almost 100% sure for 2026, you will see something on the ballot to lower or give reprieve to property taxes. Now, what that's going to be yet, I don't know. Now, we'll be deep into it. It's going to start here probably in about October. And our group will be in Tallahassee actually looking at what the stuff is. A lot of times what will happen is a bill will come out and it's going through its committees and things of that nature, but we look at it and we may like the bill, but there might be some language in it that we don't like that we figure would hurt our taxpayers of our county. Right. So therefore we go and say, hey, look, we're for this bill, but we don't like this or that because it may hurt people in our county.
Right. So this bill, I mean, when they say no property taxes, they're not talking commercial and they're not talking investors at this point, right?
Well, it originally started with everybody.
Wow.
Then it went back to homestead properties, and it's been swinging back and forth. I really don't know where they're at. There's some talk, I'm sure, going along all over the place. There's some other talk I've been in, and I won't mention names, of people saying that, hey, we're going to do this or do that. And the problem is a lot of this is in the Constitution. So anytime something becomes where you're trying to change the Constitution, it becomes what they call a joint resolution, which means it has to go on the ballot. And then the will of the people of 60% or more will say yes or no to that. Mm-hmm. So whatever the will of the people are, I mean, we're fine with that. But there's a lot of hurdles on a lot of stuff because there's a lot of stuff in the Constitution and in the statutes of Florida that many of these legislatures, even before the ones sitting there now, have made law.
Right.
there are some tweaking of stuff that could be done. Looking at some of the stuff, an example, one of the things that was approved a couple years back countywide here was the super senior exemption. So if you can check a box of being 65 or older, or if you can check a box of being under an income of like 37,000 and change household income, then the next big box to check was, have I lived in the exact same home, not in Florida, in the exact same home for 25 years or more? And then the other thing was, was the home worth $250,000 or less? So the problem with that is the further you move south in Florida, you may not find a $250,000 house in the Brevards, Miami-Dades, things of that nature.
And it might have been very inexpensive when they bought it 20, 30 years ago. And it's just kind of accrued and accrued and accrued. And now it's worth, 1.2 or something.
Correct.
But they bought it for $20,000 back at the beginning of their marriage.
And the one thing that you've heard through discussion was, number one, you're paying on unrealized gains. Well, if you have homestead, you're limited to no more than a 3% increase per year. Right. So if you've been living there for 10 or 15 years or longer, or it could be the last 5 years because the market, had just went crazy the last 5 years. After your first year, your base year of homestead, your market value can go up whatever it needs to based on the previous year's sales, but your assessed value cannot. So you're not paying on your full market value of your property.
Right. So a lot of people, I'm actually shocked at how few people know about portability, which seems to me like a huge, huge, huge benefit, where, if you've had that, well, actually, I'm not even going to explain it. How would you explain it in basic terms to somebody about how they can figure out how much of a discount they're going to get, basically?
Well, we get quite a few portability applications every year when we get homestead applications. We're getting 14,000 or so, 13,000 or so homestead applications a year. Many of them have portability. If it comes from another county, first of all, we have to send to that county to get what their market value was, what their assessed value was, and what that Save Our Homes holdback was. So let's say it was a $300,000 market, $100,000 Save Our Homes holdback that they're not paying taxes on, so their assessed value would be $200,000 before homestead. Okay. So let's just use that $100,000. If in fact they want to replace a home anywhere in the state of Florida, it doesn't just have to be Marion County, anywhere in the state of Florida, if they increase in value of that property or go higher, they take every bit of it with them, the whole 100,000. If they decrease in value, meaning husband and wife's kids move out, they decide to downsize from a bigger home to a smaller home, and let's say the value is less, then they would take that 100,000, divide it by the 300,000 in this case, which would be about 33%. They could take 33% of shielding with them to the new property.
Okay, that's probably the simplest and easiest explanation I've had from it yet. So what if somebody is considering selling their home and they want to figure out for themselves what their portability is? Basic math. And it is very basic because I look at, but they can get that information right on the Property Appraiser website on their property ID card, right?
Yes and no. Depends on, the problem is we do not know yet. Like, for instance, right now we're in 2025. We have not got all the sales in 2025. So if somebody wanted to sell right now, we might know what their value is on their property right now because trim notices are going out Thursday. Okay, we may know what their Save Our Homes holdback is. But what we don't know is what the value of that property will be next year. So we can give a ballpark figure. We could say, okay, right now the house you're looking at, especially if it's in Marion County to Marion County, is pretty simple. But the house you're looking at right now is worth X amount of dollars, is more or less than the other home. And we could apply what their holdback is right now to that new property's value that we know right now. Problem is there's a lot of irons in a fire of what's the value next year? What's the tax rate going to be next year? What's the non-ad valorem going to be next year? And we don't know that. When we set values, we're looking, everything's based on a January 1st date. Right. So that's your appraisal date. Everything you do in the state of Florida is based on that date. So if we're looking at what's the value as of 2025, we're looking at January 1, 2025. So we're looking at all sales that occurred from January 1st of 24 to December 31st of 24 for like properties. Right. So then we apply that to our CAMA system, which is a computer assisted mass appraisal system, and it, basically generates the value. And then there's some tweaking and stuff that we have to do and go in there and take a look at stuff. But we're looking at same type of properties. Not all of them are the same. I mean, we're not going to look at a sale on a golf course and value one off the golf course the same way. It's just not the same. So we look at that information and we apply it. But then when we're doing all this, right, when we're valuing property, we have no clue what the tax rate's going to be because we don't figure that. We have no clue what the non-ad valorem is going to be. We don't figure that. So what happens is the budgeting process happens throughout the county. They send that to the county commissioners. The county commissioners then vote on basically what the tax rates are going to be based on the needs of the county. And as I said before, in Marion County, it's only about 40% of the total taxes taken in are funded by real estate. Other by fees.
Only about 40%. That's a pretty good size, though.
Right, but most people think it's 100% real estate. It's not.
No. Yeah.
It's not.
No. So where does the other 60% come from?
From fees, dock stamps, fees, renewal of a license, all kinds of different things that come through that we get from that sales tax in some cases. Another thing that's been thrown out is adding a percentage to the sales tax to actually lower the tax rate. Right. So that's something that's being thrown around, which could happen. I mean, and if that does happen, we're fine with that. I mean, now I would say that would hurt the lower income people because, a lot of people want to say that renters do not pay taxes. But if I'm renting from you and it's a $300 per month that you're having to pay in taxes, you're probably actually charging me $350. You're actually charging me a little bit more just in case they go up.
Right.
So they may actually
That's
be paying.
exactly what happens.
They may be actually paying a little more.
Right. Than
somebody's got an escrow account for their house. So they do pay it. I mean, if you're a nice person, but if I'm renting from you, you're not going to say, "Well, I'll take care of the taxes."
Yeah, no, that's not how that works. Because essentially, a rental it's an investment. Even if it's a residential property, it's a commercial transaction. So there's not a you can live here for less because of the goodness of my heart. That's not what it is. That's why they hire property managers, is because they don't want to be the bad guy. They're like, here, you go tell them the rent's going up.
and think about it. I mean, one person had said at one point, actually when I was running for office, that they wanted to get rid of tangible personal property and said, well, if you go to a pizzeria and they're charging you $10 per pie, you get rid of them tangible taxes, they may lower their price. They're not going to lower their price. If they're getting $10, they're going to continue to get $10 or more.
It's just what's going
Same
to
thing
them
with renters. If the taxes went away, do you think that people are going to lower the amount of rent they were already getting, say, $2,000 a month or $1,500 a month? They're probably not going to lower their rent.
Because that's the market.
Exactly.
That's the market rate. So it's not like the market rate is going to change, especially not overnight. They'll continue to get that, and they probably have a lease in place, so it's going to be that way for the next 10, 12 months anyway. So no, it's not going to change, and they're not going to change the pricing. If they think they can get $2,100, they'll go for that. Doesn't matter what their expenses are. That's what they're going to go for. Man, it sounds like you have an astronomical amount of work that you have to do this time of year.
All throughout the year.
All throughout the year.
Again, our office meeting yesterday, we talked to some of the newer people. We have different times of the year that there are certain things that are either due to the Department of Revenue, due to the taxing authorities, or whatever the case may be. And there's. At
this point, the cycle without even pondering
pretty
it.
Much. Yeah. I mean, the dates change a little bit each year because it's a calendar year, but I mean, we know what we have to do. June 1st estimates, preliminary roll, final roll, budgeting, everything else. And one thing that I know I've been asked a lot about, and I'll put on this podcast, we at the Property Appraiser's office in the state of Florida, our budgets are approved by the Department of Revenue. They are not approved by the county commissioners. Now, we go over through a formality and we submit our budgets to them, but our budgets are approved by the Department of Revenue. Therefore, nobody at any county could go to a property appraiser and say either, hey, raise your values, because we don't want to raise the tax rate. It'd be a conflict of interest. So Department of Revenue looks at our budget. They compare it to all the other property appraisers around the state, and they will axe some stuff off there and say, hey, take this out. You don't need it. They will. I mean, which rightfully so. That's their job.
Add some stuff in there that you don't need so that they have something to remove.
We've been pretty lean in Marion County. We've been pretty lean for years.
Oh, jeez. It's a big county.
It is.
It's a huge county.
Very much is. And it's just the cost of everything has gone up. We lease our field vehicles, just to give you an example. We lease each truck, and they're four-wheel drive trucks because we have the forest area and things of that nature and damage assessment.
You go Bajaing.
You know, and they're about $328 a month. So we were looking at our lease again. They went up to almost $1,200 a month. And we said, you know what, we'll release these ones again because we're not going to pay that.
Wow.
So we've been frugal with a lot of stuff. I mean, years ago when I was the director of the field department, I bought tapes that got replaced for free when they broke. You remember old Sears and Craftsman and stuff like that. We found some other ones when Sears shut down. But just simple things like that saves taxpayer money. And we're not trying to, we don't have all the gadgets that some of the counties have. We do a lot of stuff in-house, like our CAMA system that we have done and developed in-house, where it would cost millions of dollars if we would go out and get a vendor to do it for us.
Right.
Now, as a real estate agent, speaking of vendors, we just changed our mapping system, and I'm sure you probably figured that out by now.
I have seen some differences on there. Yes, I was like, is this here to stay? What is it? What are we doing here? What is this? It looks different.
It is, and the problem with that is we use a vendor for that. Okay. The old software that we were using is no longer being supported by the vendor. Okay. Therefore, it's gone.
So it was sitting on an XP somewhere. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean. If you remember years ago, we used to have Map It out there, and it changed. I was actually announcing football on a Saturday morning at MCYFL, and they called me and said our other mapping system is gone, and we've had a Band-Aid on it trying to keep it going because so many realtors like that system.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and I said, if we can't resurrect it, we can't do nothing about it. We've already told people, the other ones have been out there for a while, there's nothing we can do. Yeah. We changed. Again, it's changed now.
We're not good with change. We get, even if it's a completely difficult system, once we learn it, we don't want to see anything else. Like that, keep that for forever. Even if it's obsolete and horrible, it's still something we know.
And the laugh about it, I mean, I started out as a field appraiser back in 1992. Back then we used to run blueprint type maps, and we would have to find it by a legal description and highlight the parcels we were going to. And then when I was done, I colored it in. The mapping system does that for our field people now.
You used to have to actually measure the houses.
We still do.
We still do?
Yeah, we still do that.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Wow.
We still, and
physically go out with
we pull a tape or we have lasers.
Laser at least is a
and they're very accurate. I mean, they're extremely accurate.
Oh yeah. I have a little laser tape measure that's about the size of a matchbook. And that thing is so accurate, and it'll give you down to do you want inches? Do you want feet? Do you want this? Do you want that? I mean, just 2 seconds, and there you go. Nobody has to hold the other end. It's awesome. I absolutely love it. And I've heard that cell phones can do it as well, but I have not attempted that.
Well, by using these, and most of the makes we have are Disto, which is ones they can use, and you can actually use them to a Bluetooth for a tablet or something like that.
Oh, wow.
But our commercial appraiser has one that'll do 500 feet. And it has a little view window because at my age, I can't see the end of that, that beam, but it has a little view window showing you what it's hitting, and then it measures to what it's hitting. So they're very accurate.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I love that. Especially, I don't know, with Florida and Florida heat and stuff, you don't want to be sitting out there for too long. Hopefully you do that part only in winter. I don't know.
We do it all year round.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah, and we're required to review every property every 5 years. It used to be every 3. Now it's every 5. But if you can just imagine, if I told you we put 7,000 new construction buildings on last year, think about how many additions or besides that was put on, and probably 200, 220 commercial buildings. Yeah. Some of them are not easy to measure. They're pretty big.
Yeah. Well, do you, for the houses that have those additions and stuff, is it the people calling you up saying, hey, I put an addition on, come tax me more? Or are you going by permits, or how do you do that?
And we get the permits from the building department. So, like you talked about impact fees, that comes from the county itself. We don't get involved in that, and we don't get involved with building code or anything of that nature. Once they're CO'd or once they're done, they don't actually have to have a CO. There is a law called substantially complete. If that house is done for its intended purpose and someone's not pulling a CO, we can still assess it. Right. And I have found cases over the years where somebody was living in it or something for some reason. We had to assess the property.
No.
Oh yeah. And but once in a regular case, we get the final or the CO on it, and we go out and pick it up for, based on that January 1st date.
I bet you had some crazy experience. Just thinking of like some of the more rural areas that we have here.
Weekend warriors.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. You go out into the forest and stuff, and I can't imagine being a field inspector. They must see some crazy, crazy stuff and go through some crazy, crazy situations. I can't even imagine. I mean, as a realtor, I've definitely seen some stuff, but I mean, what's one of the craziest things when you were a field inspector that you saw or that you experienced?
Well, I mean, the big thing people think is because it's got ag on it or agricultural, and there's a difference between the zoning and actually getting the classification of ag on your property.
Right.
They're saying, well, I don't have to pull a permit. Well, that's not exactly correct. You still have to go over and tell them what you're doing. They may exempt the permit or charge you very little. That's the building department, so I'm not going to speak on that behalf. But then they build stuff, and a lot of times they might tell you it's a barn. We get out there, and it's a full-fledged living area. And so
does not surprise me at all.
It's going to be assessed as living area, and we've had that happen.
Yeah, I know there was somebody who had this amazing farm, and she started having like essentially like RV, but it wasn't RV because they were little cabins that she built, and very, very cute. And she put little air conditioners in them, and it was absolutely adorable. And then they're like, you do realize you have absolutely no permits for any of this, and this is completely zoned inaccurately. So she's like, what do I need to do? And it was like starting this whole long process. But she was just like, well, I mean, I have all this land, and, of course I'm going to do these little houses because people keep wanting to stay on my land. And it's like, well, the thought is great, but there's a few papers you might need to fill out. Yep. You can't just stick a shack there and say people can stay there.
And that's the days you don't want to work at building and zoning.
No, probably not. We appreciate you.
Well, one of the things when we put the app out there was for real estate professionals and stuff like that to use on their phone. Right. I use it quite a bit. I would rather real estate agents, if they're looking at what the taxes were and what they could be, is to send the people to our office, right. So that we can look at, what's going on.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. I truly appreciate you coming and sharing all of this vital information with us. It's great. We're about out of time, but thanks for everyone listening in. We will see you again next week, same time, same place. Have a great week.
You've been listening to What's Up, Ocala? Follow us all week on Andrea Praber's YouTube channel and TikTok. We'll see you next week at 10 a.m. on What's Up, Ocala.